John Kmetz, and I'm the general manager of central engineering for Chevron Phillips. And I do not have a propaganda slide for our company, but I've worked with the company for 39 years, so I think I can wing it. We are a 50-50 joint venture of Chevron and Phillips, really ethical company, very transparent, consistent company. We have 31 manufacturing sites, about $14 billion worth of revenue, so we're a pretty good sized company, and we are the #1 supplier in the world of high density polyethylene. So we make products that people use everywhere. We make like 70,000 either products or products that go into making those 70,000 products. So they all come from crude oil. So I know there's a lot of discussion here about killing crude oil. Please don't, because we won't have any lights or tables or carpet or anything else left in this building. So our products go into auto, energy, food and ag. We make all the plastic that wraps for keeping products safe, food safe, industrial, et cetera. So we make products that make your life possible. So there's my canned spiel. Okay, so I'm an end user. I'm a manufacturing guy, and I'll tell you what, going around these halls with all the brain power and the automation and the IoTs and the infrastructure management, it scares the daylights. You guys are frighteningly smart in this room. So for me, I'm just a manufacturing guy. I'm an end user of the stuff that you do, a lot of you do, and but what you do makes what we do possible. So the goal of the project that I'm going to talk about is to safely and effectively and efficiently manage our mechanical integrity of our plant. So a couple folks might know what mechanical integrity is in a plant, might sense it normally, but everything we make comes from a feedstock that burns or is toxic. You know, it comes from crude oil. So we boil it, cook it, fractionate it, send it to the plants and turn it into plastic or polyethylene or some mercaptans, the stuff that the sulfur products that smell, that make the smell and gas. So natural gas, you can smell it, we make that stuff, a lot of it. So all of that stuff we want to keep in the pipes. So our job is to keep the workers in our plants, some of your sons and daughters, keep them safe. In the community right outside the fence, keep them safe. And to keep those products that need to stay in the pipes. So that's what mechanical integrity is, keeping the products in the pipe. And that is really fundamentally, reliability improvement and mechanical integrity were the targets of this project. So, as you might imagine, we have lots of inspections that are mandated by the government when you run a chemical plant or multiple chemical plants, and some of those are required by OSHA. There's a big standard, it's 29 CFR 1910 119J. Believe it or not, that's a mechanical integrity standard that tells us what we have to do to keep our plants safe and to keep you safe, to keep your sons and daughters safe if they work in our facility. So our goal on this project was to figure out how to do inspections on hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment across the world, and how to make sure that when we do those inspections, we capture that data, make sure that data comes in, and it makes it really difficult for a very smart mechanic or an operator to do the wrong thing and make it easy to do the right thing. So that's really our mission. And I can figure out how to work this. And to never miss a deadline or a task of when we have an inspection that's due. So, go. Come on. Okay, there it is. So I talked about everything that we do matters. So let me walk you through this project a little bit. So from a data perspective, it says took 50 separate data systems and tools and turned them into one integrity system of truth. That's really what we were trying to do with this whole project. So there's probably a lot more than those 50 databases. But those are 50 access databases, Excel spreadsheets, boxes of garbage in somebody's office, that we call records. And this is maybe 10 years ago. We had stuff that wasn't all that pretty, and we had to put it all together. So whenever we had a compliance inspection or whenever we wanted to know where our compliance status was, we sometimes had to dig pretty far to figure out what that looked like and make sure. And it's actually very personal because I was a former plant manager, and you sign off that you're in compliance. So that means you grill the operators and engineers and mechanics and make sure that that data is accurate. Now, with the system that we put in place over the last, I'll say, half a dozen years, we've gone from a system of not being quite sure that we were 100% in compliance, truly, to knowing that we were in compliance. We really thought we were, and we probably were, but now we know we are. So here's an example. We had a guy in one of our plants, his name is Leo. Leo had a database, as all Leos do. And this Leo had the process safety valve database. And he was he's a very smart guy, and he wrote a very complicated password for that access database. So you know where this goes? Leo retired after 127 years of service. And a month later, he came back, or we called him and said, Leo, dude, that password, we need it. He said, well, it's there. There where? It's on a sticky note behind the black book on the top shelf. It was gone. It had blown out with the wind. We couldn't find Leo's database. We broke into Leo's database. We finally got it. But it was a lot of work and a lot of headache to maintain compliance. That's not where we want to be. It's not where we are, 10 years forward from that process. What we learned from Leo's database is this is not a software problem. This is not a software project. This was a manufacturing project. So we had to, because the skin in the folks looking for Leo and Leo's database weren't the IT folks. It was all the manufacturing folks. It was the plant manager and all of us digging through stuff until we found it. So it became really personal on that front. So here's what the process or the project looked like. It took a couple of years for us to figure out that we had to have the work process and the tool join at the middle. And what I mean by that, so if you don't take anything away from this crazy presentation, the work process and the tool have to meet. And one has to drive the other, and the other has to support the other. So we have an interface with SAP. We use GE Digital's Meridian APM software for our enterprise-wide system of truth. We have all the rest of the information come back into that system, and that is our system of record. So we have 1,000 users in our company of this Meridian, GE Digital's Meridian. So I've known Meridian so long, I call it Meridian. So it's GE Digital's APM software, but it's going to slip out Meridian because that's what I call it all the time. So it's the same thing. What this wheel is this is our work process, and we start with equipment in our plant. So we have hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment. They're all classified, which ones are critical, which ones are mid, and which ones are lower criticality. And every piece of equipment goes around that. I won't kind of explain that, but each piece of equipment has a strategy around it. It has inspection programs and maintenance work that has to be done. And all of that is in our one system of record. And so that was our project. So a couple weeks ago, I was in the Middle East and Europe, and I walked into some of the engineers and analysts' office and the inspectors, and they don't know me from Adam. I walk in, and they've got the dashboards up. The dashboards that we put in place years ago are sitting there. They're using those tools to drive their work process. And I think that's an example of success. When you have the work process and the tool so locked that you can't separate the two, and you need one for the other, and it's naturally part of the system. That's why I feel pretty good about that. Last week, while I was trying to draw up some notes for this presentation, I ran the manager's dashboard, which is one of our APM Meridian dashboards that just has an overview of equipment data and equipment health and how everything's working from a mechanical integrity and reliability perspective. And there were 38 pieces of equipment that were overdue in the world. And they were all in one plant, which actually surprised me because we don't generally have anything overdue. We've kind of gotten past that in a pretty good way. So I actually texted the superintendent in that area and said, hey, Kristen, what's up with, it looks like you have some overdue equipment. And within like 2 minutes, she was back. So there were 38 pieces of equipment that I saw. She wrote back and said, hi, John, yeah, we have 38 pieces of equipment that are overdue. They have interim compensating measures put to them, which meant that she did some extra inspection. They're all part of a turnaround plan, and they'll all be finished by the end of May. So they are done. They were in a turnaround, and it required a turnaround to do those inspections. So they showed up overdue because they were in a turnaround. She knew what they were, and there were 38 of them. And we have hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment and an order of magnitude more of inspection tasks and maintenance tasks that we go through all the time across our enterprise. And of those, that 38, I was really happy that, Kristen's sharp, but I was really happy that she just sent back a note that quickly that she knew what was going on. So anyway, that's what makes me feel good about what we did. One of the things that I like to say is if you play from the same sheet of music, even if it's in a different language, it's still the same song. So we have folks playing in Arabic and Chinese and Dutch, everywhere else. So it's, there's the remote. So that's, maybe, there it is. So this is the results page. This is kind of an eye chart, especially from the back. You'll have to trust me. You can't see it anyway because our lawyers blurred out all the good stuff. And then I wasn't allowed to put all the other really good stuff in there. So unplanned downtime and all that, we've driven down. This is like, I took a snapshot of 4 different plants, just a health check on where they were. 100% is good, 83% improvement is good. All those numbers are good, or I wouldn't have put them up on that page. All of our numbers are good. But let me draw your attention to the nice colored box on the left. A couple things I wanted to mention is, I talked about consistency, and it is so nice that anywhere you go in the world in our plants, if you're an operator or mechanic, like I said, 1,000 users, they can move, and they see the same exact system. They see the same exact dashboards. They have the same exact KPIs. So that's quite nice, and it's different, and it's all working. But that's kind of nice. So we all have the same Microsoft Word, but I'm not sure everybody uses it the same way. Same Excel, but some people use it differently. This is a consistent application and a consistent work process. Our audit thoroughness, that's about almost at the bottom, third from the bottom. When we do audits, internal audits, and we look at our systems, especially for compliance, I said everything we do matters. I'll just say that probably some of you flew here on an airplane. I guarantee that when you think about whether or not that mechanic had a checklist or that operator did what he or she was supposed to do, your pilot, they did what they were supposed to do, you'd be like, yeah, I really want them doing what they're supposed to do, and I want somebody having some governance level above that to make sure that that was done. So when I get on a plane and the pilot says, hey, I'm sorry, you guys have to get off the plane because we think we might have, there's a cover off on an electrical box and we're not really sure why. I don't ever complain. I'm the first one off that dang plane because I don't ever want to be up in the air worrying, wishing I was on the ground. I want the other way around. So the audit thoroughness, when we go and have an audit, we used to go and do 10% sample or 20% sample for compliance or effectiveness. Now we do 100% sample. We look at 100% of our equipment and compare it to objective data and say, are we doing what we're supposed to do? Is everything current? Is everything accurate? Do we have good data? So that's really one of the things that we focus on is our data health and so that we can, we spend so much time working on optimizing the plant now instead of horsing around with data that we're very happy about this. So that's our audit thoroughness. And the last piece I want to talk about a little bit is RBI. RBI is risk-based inspection. For those of you who may not know, it's an API standard 581, API 581. And risk-based inspection is a way to maintain compliance and focus your attention in a plant on the most important equipment, the equipment with the highest risk, equipment risk. When we have good data and we have one system, we have one application of RBI. GE's software has an RBI module in it, which we use, and it's consistent around the world. So some plants or some companies will use 5 or 6 different vendors. Every vendor wants to sell a new tool for RBI. There's a big, long calculation that the RBI calculator is. But there's some nuance to each one. So ours is standard. And I didn't realize how big an issue that would be or how big a benefit. That is really a big benefit to us. All of the inspection history is used. All the inspection history gets sucked up into RBI. It's all integrated and all integral as part of the program, part of our work process. So, and we've had a lot of reliability improvement that I can't tell you about, or I'd have to kill you. So, this is a dashboard. Even on the PowerPoint, you won't be able to read it because it's been blurred out by our lawyers. But what this shows, some of the words they left in because I begged them. But you can see that, like a fixed equipment analyst, this is an example of one dashboard where that person will see a recommendation pending approval. That inspector will look at it, move it to the next block. Everybody can see it. This is one of the 10 dashboards, and then when it's finished, it goes over into the finished side. And everybody watches it, everybody can see it. There's governance and oversight from these dashboards. So this is the kind of a subset of the dashboards that we have that are job role-based dashboards. Manager has his or her own dashboard. You can see the whole site. That's the same dashboard that I looked for the corporation. Fixed equipment analyst is the dashboard that I just showed you. See, I'm sorry, I'm a manufacturing geek. I have no IT automation in me, but I have all operations and maintenance and plant in me. So this is the rest of the dashboards that we use. And the nice thing is that an operator can see what the manager sees. Anybody can see any of these dashboards. They're all completely transparent to a site. Somebody who's in the rotating equipment group, if he or she wants to, can go look at the operation and maintenance information that's in there. So that's how we run our business, and we wrap around the dashboards with the tool. So we messed up a couple things. These are all mistakes, and so you can take those if you're doing a similar project if you want. We started this out as an IT project, and it wasn't. And then we realized we had to backtrack a little bit and start over and kind of get manufacturing involved because manufacturing had the skin in the game. We had some really headstrong people. Every site's different. For those of you who own or manage multiple sites, every site's different. They all think they have a personality. They all do. And the site in Singapore might be really different than the site in wherever, China. And they probably are. But they really have strong people who are convinced that their way is right. The nice thing is we have awesome employees, and they came together and said, yeah, we're going to have a standard system. And that's the win. That's really the win. If you have a standard system and somebody who's going to drive it, and some group that's going to drive it from a centralized position, then everybody works off the same sheet of music. Like I said, you play the same song. So I don't want to go too far. I don't know how my time is, so I think I'm right, kind of coming up on it. I'll show you just the last slide is where we are now. Is we don't want to break what we started, what we put into place, so sustain the gains. Our journey to zero is our corporate logo of driving everything to zero, all incidents, injuries, et cetera. I really want to focus on the tie to safety and reliability because this is so personal to me. For anybody who has been in manufacturing, who has seen, I started 39 years ago. And 37 years ago, I was close enough to see a fatality happen, and you never, ever want to do that again, ever. You'll do anything to not have that same thing happen again to anybody, because everybody's somebody's son or daughter. So the tie to safety and reliability is so integral that, for us, the compliance piece is easy. You got to adhere to everything the government says. We go way past that because safety and reliability are like this, and reliability and safety are tied. So that's all I got. Thank you.